Yeah, what's up, guys? Zorda here. We're gonna be going over some dream matchups, some dream UFC matchups that I have, and what do I mean when I say dream matchups? I really mean that these are matchups that I dream about. You know, stuff that I dream about, and it doesn't have to be necessarily, it's a dream, so it's not gonna be a realistic matchup that we'll probably ever see. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe fair enough. Maybe one of these will actually come true, but. Guys, I'm going to be including fighters from different weight classes, fighters from like heavyweight fighting a flyweight, because it'd just be cool to see if it were a pound for pound matchup, you know, where their styles are clashing. That would be a dream fight. So if you see some crazy heavyweight fighting a flyweight, don't be crazed out. Don't get too mad about it, you know, because these are dream matchups. These are stuff that are never going to happen. Some of them will be more realistic maybe, but let me stop yapping. Let me get into this. First matchup. Pantoja versus Demetrious Johnson, Mighty Mouse, right? And this is kind of a matchup that, you know, I know a lot of people talk about it. Also, let me also preface this with these fighters will be in their prime, so we're gonna be considering this like a prime Demetrious Johnson. Whatever year you think that Demetrious Johnson was in his prime, with a prime Pantoja. You know, I don't know if we've seen a prime Pantoja yet. He might be out of his prime now. We don't know. So we're going to be just picking the prime of these fighters, right? So Pantoja versus Demetrious Johnson. I think the reason why most people would also want to see this fight, and why I want to see this fight, is because it is kind of like the two best flyweights fighting each other, right? The two best flyweights of their era. And, you know, a lot of people consider Pantoja to be the best flyweight of current times, right? And that's not even a crazy take, because Pantoja has pretty much beaten everybody except for Figgy, right? And I don't even know, he might be 1-1 with Figgy. I'm not sure if they ever rematched, but regardless, I think a lot of people have kind of hopped on the idea that Pantoja is that guy. And if, you know, Mighty Mouse was fighting like people that weren't as good, right? Fair enough, he fought like Cejudo and stuff, but we saw that he lost to Cejudo, right? So, I mean, you could realistically see Pantoja maybe winning this, and that's also one of my goals with these fights, is to make them kind of 50-50, where you don't know who would win. You could see maybe this guy winning, or you could see the other guy winning. And, you know, I know there's going to be that guy in the comments like, mate, Mighty Mouse is the third best fighter of all time, mate. Of course he would fucking destroy Pantoja. It's just stupid. Guys, we have to be realistic, okay? We can't just pick Mighty Mouse to destroy everybody because he's third on my GOAT list. Like, I don't care about that, okay? I'm trying to make a fun matchup here, so you can shut up about that if you're gonna even talk about that in the comments. But let me just say this would be a really good fight. And it would kind of be also, could be marketed as one of those fights to determine who really is the flyweight GOAT. And you could say, Demetrious Johnson had 28 title defenses, obviously it's Demetrious Johnson. I don't care. Okay, we're just trying to see if Pantoja could actually beat Mighty Mouse. And I think, you know, I might lean towards Pantoja, but I'd probably end up picking Demetrious Johnson if this were a real fight. Now, let me move on. This one, I think this one is a fight that's been talked about by everyone. Sean O'Malley versus Conor McGregor. I think Conor McGregor versus Sean O'Malley would be one of those matchups. Let me move my face cam. Oh shit, or not. Let me move the fucking PowerPoint. Anyway, this matchup would be one of those matchups that would be marketed as the two superstars of the UFC. I mean, Sean O'Malley's not really a superstar, but they kind of want to paint him as if he's like the biggest star in the UFC, even though Pereira is probably a bigger star than him. Right, but regardless, Sean O'Malley does deserve his flowers, because he is probably the most entertaining striker in my opinion, and even one of the more entertaining fighters in the UFC. So I think that combine this with a prime McGregor, right? Obviously not a washed McGregor. I just made a video on why you wouldn't beat a fly. But yeah, if this were prime McGregor versus prime Sean O'Malley, I'll tell you this right now, I would probably lean towards Sean O'Malley. Bro, what are you talking about, bro? Prime McGregor was a fucking beast, bro. His left hand, bro. Are you fucking kidding me? I'd still probably lean towards Sean O'Malley, just because Sean O'Malley is an extremely technical striker. He has so many good combinations. He's fucking, I don't know, he's very flashy and a flashy striker. And I think Conor McGregor's flashy striking as well would kind of be a perfect combination, and it would make for an entertaining fight. And these guys would both want to stand up with each other. I don't think this would hit the ground at all. And, you know, it's a dream matchup, guys. So in my dreams, this would be just a stand-up fight. And I think this is kind of one of those fights that everyone would want to see. A lot of these dream matchups just include strikers mainly, because I think striking is more of my land. But, you know, I did include some grapplers here, but this is definitely one of those fights that I think most people would want to see, and it would be very entertaining on the feet. Let me move on. This one's gonna be a good fight. Yair Rodriguez versus Jiri Prochazka. Now, I know this is a middleweight versus a featherweight. You don't get to tell me that, right? Because we're just going to assume that these guys are both in the same weight class, right? And they both have, their power equalizes out or whatever. Guys, this would be a fucking amazing fight in my opinion. And this is kind of one of those underrated fights that you don't see people talking about, because Yair Rodriguez is like the flashiest striker in the UFC, and he's also an insanely underrated striker. And then Jiri Prochazka is one of the most unique, like, creative strikers in the UFC. And dude, tell me this wouldn't be fucking insane with like Yair doing his capoeira stuff or whatever, and like spinning fucking kicks and shit, and then Jiri doing spinning elbows and all these crazy punches and wacky punches and his wacky defense, bro. It'd be a crazy fight to see. Since I'm a fucking Jiri fan, I would probably pick Jiri, but I could actually see Yair winning this, and we're gonna assume that Yuri's not gonna shoot a fucking takedown, because I know when Jiri gets wobbled, he shoots takedowns and he just goes straight for the takedown to protect himself. But in all fairness, we're gonna assume that this is like a stand-up battle, just a stand-up battle between the two. But this is a fight that you're not gonna see other people talking about, because guys, this is actually a good fight as well. That's the thing. Like, if this were a realistic fight where they would both be in the same weight class, tell me this wouldn't be an insane fucking fight, because Jiri is considered to be like one of the most entertaining fighters all around, like not even just strikers, just one of the most entertaining fighters. And then Yair is considered like the most entertaining striker, flashy striker at least, right? He's a flashy ass striker. I know he gets dominated on the ground, but if this is just standing up, it would be chaotic, bro. You would see Yair throwing some crazy kicks and everything like that, and you would see Jiri with his wacky punches, bro. It'd just be a good fight. And let me move on. This next fight's a grappler one. Khabib versus Makhachev. This is a fight that I would actually want to see really bad, because I personally think Islam's better than Khabib, especially with his striking, because in my opinion, Islam's a very well-rounded guy, whereas Khabib was mainly, obviously he was probably one of the best grapplers, or the best grappler in the UFC history, but I mean, this would just be a crazy fight, because this one you would have to consider that it's not only grappling, it's going to be also some stand-up, and I think Islam would dominate the stand-up. And this would also be marketed kind of like the DJ and Pantoja fight. It would be marketed as who's really the lightweight GOAT. And by now, I think most people, there's still some people that think that Khabib's the lightweight GOAT or whatever, but I think most people would agree by now BJ Penn's the lightweight GOAT. No, I'm just playing. But Islam Makhachev's the lightweight GOAT. Especially with like wins over Volk and Charles, and there's always that narrative that bro only fights featherweights, bro's only looking to fight, bro would never fight a fighter in his weight class. Like, let's just shut up about that, especially when Volk is one of the most skilled fighters, and Charles as well, bro. Like, dude, he's proven himself by now, and I think that I would favor Islam to win this, but it would be one of those crazy fights, because Khabib's grappling is better than Islam's grappling, obviously, but I think Islam's striking is miles ahead of Khabib, so it would be one of those crazy matchups, and it would be one of the Dagestani matchup, Dagestani versus Dagestani, and this would obviously never happen, but it's a dream matchup for a reason, and this is definitely a fight that most people would probably be interested in, even though it's like, bro, they're boring fighters. Islam's not a boring fighter whatsoever, and this would be an entertaining fight. Next up, I'm moving on to, this would be a boxing masterclass, right? Fucking Islam, Ilia Topuria versus Dustin Poirier, right? We're gonna assume they're in their primes. This isn't a wash, Dustin, and this is I don't think Ilia's ever hit his prime really yet, but we're just gonna consider it. They're both in their primes, and this would just be a boxing masterclass from either side. I would favor Ilia, but that's because I'm an Ilia Glazer, right? So fair enough. You're probably gonna say, bro, Poirier would pace this kid up, bro. What are you fucking talking about? This guy's a fucking casual, bro. But I think this, regardless of what you think, you could probably say that Ilia and Poirier are like the best boxers in the UFC right now, right? Okay, we're not going to say Holloway is one of the best boxers because he's a fucking striker, right? We're not going to say he's the best boxer because he had that little against Calvin Kattar, that performance where he said, I'm the best boxer in the UFC, baby. We're not going to consider that. Okay, we're going to actually look at who are the best boxers, and I think right now it's Ilia Topuria and Dustin Poirier. And so this would be a fucking entertaining fight because it's going to be like a boxing match, bro. Like, I don't see many of these guys using their kicks. Ilia might use his kicks a little, but I think he's mainly going to rely on the boxing. And, fair enough, Ilia is a very good grappler. So if it goes to grappling, we got to look at that maybe. But if we're just looking at, also, let me also say this before I move on, but Dustin Poirier's takedown defense, especially during the Islam fight, was looking insane. So it might be hard for Ilya to even get Dustin down. That's why I think it would be mainly boxing. And if it's mainly boxing, I think this would be like one of those boxing masterclass type fights on both sides. It would just be a boxer's dream. And so I think this is kind of one of those dream matchups. They would just be, bro, they would both be slugging in the pocket and shit. And I think it would be a really good fight. Let me move on. Max Holloway versus Sean O'Malley. Now, this one, for me, I like this one because I think Sean O'Malley I currently have him as the #1 striker in the UFC. And if you're calling me a Sean O'Malley fan, don't, because I fucking hate Sean O'Malley, right? He beat my boy Chito Vera pretty badly. And Chito Vera is my favorite fighter, in case you guys didn't know. But, yeah, I respect Sean O'Malley as a striker, but I hate him I don't hate him, but I just don't like his personality and all that. But I still, regardless, think he is probably the best striker in the UFC right now. And then we got Max Holloway, who at one point I might have considered the best striker in the UFC, but now he's, if we're looking at primes, this would be technically like what I considered at one time the best striker versus the current best striker. And so this would be an insane fight as well, because this would be no takedowns whatsoever. It would just be Max's crazy combinations with Sean O'Malley's crazy combos and that flashy striking. And it would be one of those matchups that's like, you honestly don't know who's going to win. Now, if this happened right now, I don't know who I would pick. I would probably lean towards Sean, even though, just because, I don't know, actually. I don't know who I would lean towards, but that's why this is a good fight, because it's literally one of those where it's 50-50, and 50-50 matchups are always a great fight because you're going into it not expecting what's going to happen, because both of these guys, I'd say, they have about equal power. Max Holloway, you could say he has a little bit more power now, but if we're dumbing it down to where they're both in the same exact weight class, right? Like at 145 or something, if these both were 145ers, I think, dude, I honestly don't know. That's why this is such a good fight, bro. But they would both have power. They would both have the crazy combos and the crazy striking. So it would be like a striking dream matchup, and that's why that has to be included, bro. This would be such a good fight, even now. That's why, if Max does win, which he's not gonna win against Ilya Topuria. I'm telling you this right now. But this would be like a dream matchup to see. For sure. And equally, Ilya Topuria, I could also say Ilya Topuria versus Sean O'Malley would be a cool matchup to see. But I think this one's a way better one, just because it's like two pure strikers fighting each other. Next up, this is also kind of one of those DJ Pantoja situations where it's the GOAT of one division fighting, who's considered like the second best of all time in that division. So, Usman versus GSP, let me tell you this right now. This is probably at the bottom of my dream matchups, even though it's still one of those that I would be really cool to see. Like, it would be really cool to see. But this is at the bottom of my dream matchups just because they both kind of didn't have the most entertaining styles, in my opinion. Kind of grappling heavy. But it would be cool because they would probably cancel each other out. So, this would maybe you go to the striking, or we would see some crazy scrambles and just some crazy grappling sequences. So, alright, I'm back. I had to take a little break. Sorry if I'm shirtless right now. But we're going back to talking about this elite matchup. This is a matchup between the two best elites. I forgot what I was saying. But it would be a good fight, and I'd probably lean towards Usman because, GSP was fighting in the older eras, and that's why I also like these types of fights where it's the GOAT versus like who's considered the second best or the current GOAT, right? Because I think most of us could agree that Usman is like the second best, or like the current GOAT of our division, right? And so I think that this would be I'd probably lean towards Usman just because he has the newer fighter, the newer fighter skills, right? He's not the old man fighter, even if it's during their primes, right? I just think that Usman probably has more skills, and this would kind of be proof that the older era is not as good as the newer era. So I actually like this fight, and I can see a lot of people saying, "Bro, GSP's gonna fucking dominate him, bro. What you on about?" I don't care. I'm picking Usman. This is not a real fight, obviously, guys, so who cares? But I would pick Usman for this one. And let me move on to the battle of the left hands, right? So I know you guys are probably freaking out right now because it's a light heavyweight versus who once was a featherweight versus Conor McGregor, who once was a featherweight, basically. But if we dumb this down and they're both somehow magically at welterweight, or let's just say lightweight, right? Let's say they're both at lightweight somehow. I think this would be a fantastic fight because, Conor McGregor had that slick striking. He had the slick striking with his left hook, obviously, or with his left hand, not his left hook, sorry. And then Pereira has his left hook, who he's putting everybody out with in one shot. Whereas Conor was more of the, he'd kind of dominate you, right? He wouldn't necessarily knock you out in one, except for, Jose Aldo. But he would knock you down, sit you down 15 times during the fight with his left hand, And so this would be one of those great matchups because it would be like, at any moment, you would probably see like 15 knockdowns during this fight. Except obviously, I don't know how Pereira's power would kind of translate in this hypothetical situation, but Pereira has that one-shot KO power, which is why he's so scary and dangerous. So this would be like a fantasy matchup, especially because it would determine, it's the battle of the left hands, man. Who has the real best left hand in UFC history? And for this one, personally, I think I might pick Conor, but dude, this is also one of those 50-50 fights because you don't know if Pereira would be able to put Conor out in just one shot, right? Or you don't know if McGregor would just completely out-skill him, because he's probably a more skilled technical striker than Pereira, but that's just because Pereira is obviously at a higher weight class, so that's not taking away anything from Pereira, because I do think Pereira is probably one of the best strikers right now in the UFC, and, maybe even UFC history also, you could put him in the best striking list. But let me move on to our second to last matchup. Yoel Romero versus Charles Oliveira. Now, I know this is probably crazy also. This is one of those, like, what? Like, this kind of seems random. But when you think about it, it's not. These guys are both, like, I consider Charles to have the most aura in the UFC up until the Islam fight when he lost. He had an insane amount of aura. And then Yoel was also one of these guys who just had so much aura, Obviously, he's just fucking scary looking, bro. This is like the battle of the aura guys. And they're both good as shit as well. Yoel's considered like one of the best people to never win a belt. And he is an insanely good fighter. And I think also with his explosivity, Charles is also very explosive. Whether we like to well, no, it's not even whether we like to admit it or not. He just is explosive. He's a fantastic one-round guy as well. And so that's why kind of like the Michael Chandler fight was so good, because Michael Chandler's known as this guy who's like really, really good during round one, right? And Charles Oliveira is kind of the same way. Obviously, Charles is very good during the whole fight, as we've seen in his other fights, but regardless, this would be an insane round one, and it would be very explosive. It'd be probably similar to the Michael Chandler fight, in my opinion. But that would still be an amazing fight to see if this were like a realistic fight somehow, and this would happen at lightweight, and Yoel would somehow be a mini Yoel. But this would be a fucking cool ass fight, in my opinion. Let me move on to the last fight. This one you guys are probably gonna laugh at, but it actually would be something that I want to see. Belal Muhammad versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now this would be a really good fight because this is gonna sound crazy, but I do think Belal Muhammad is the best grappler in the UFC at the moment. And I think this would also be like, it would be a battle of the best grapplers in my opinion, right? That's why these are my dream matchups, because you can hate on Belal, right? I understand it's popular to hate on Belal, right? Because he's boring. But he still is, in my opinion, the most dominant grappler, especially after what he did to Leon, bro. Like, he just took him down at any chance. He fucking tipped him on his head, bro. He dunked him. That's insanely impressive. And I think, obviously, Khabib is considered to be, like, the best grappler in the UFC. And I think this would, in my opinion, be more entertaining than the Islam matchup. Like, the Islam versus Khabib matchup. Because it would be the two of these guys just grappling and constantly, like, having these insane scrambles and ground and pound. And I think it would be, like, the battle of the best grapplers. And, I mean, it's going to sound, like, retarded because obviously, you're like, grappling's boring, bro. What are you talking about? And I know grappling is kind of boring, but this would be a really exciting fight because it would be two elite grapplers. This is kind of like, when I look at this, I kind of think of it kind of like an Aljo versus Evloev, which is happening. And I think it could be that. I'm really hyped for that fight because it's two of the best grapplers fighting each other. So this is a similar situation, except it's the most elite grapplers, in my opinion. So I do think this would be an exciting fight, even though it's, Belal is considered the most boring fighter in the UFC, but I still think this would be a very exciting fight. And this is probably not at the top of my dream matchups, but definitely on it. And that's the last dream matchup, guys. But, you know, I know this video came out a little wonky, and I don't know, but I still wanted to share these matchups with you guys. Let me know what you guys think about them. If you guys have any better matchup ideas, I know obviously there's other ones that are more realistic, like Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. I didn't want to include that in here because that is a dream matchup, but I think, you know, it's unrealistic, but it's also realistic just because Jones is trying to retire, so that's why it's unrealistic. But it's still like a fight that I want to see, and Pereira moving up to heavyweight and stuff like that. But I didn't want to include those right now because I wanted to make them kind of more unrealistic, right? So I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I make daily MMA videos, by the way, so if you guys are into that, just subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.